It's going to be quite a moment when the sitting vice president performs his last official duty, and that is to swear in the new United States Senator from New York, Rick Lazio.
The so-called experts counted her out a lot of times.
You know, you really can't care what people say about you. And in New York, they say it in every language.
Go home, Hillary!
She is the most egregious, the most offensive.
I think that everybody wants to see you signing something that you said you were for.
Just attack, attack, attack.
Look, I knew I was taking a big risk, and I knew that it would get really hard, really ugly even.
She could have had a much easier and more lucrative life, but it wouldn't have been her life.
The United States Senate is where decisions are made that affect people's lives. Why should I shrink away and not do that?
From the time Hillary was a child, she was imbued with the notion that in order for her life to have meaning, she had to do something more than succeed in personal ways. And she had to give something back.
She won this election the old-fashioned way. She earned it.
"62 counties, 16 months, 3 debates, 2 opponents, and 6 black pantsuits later, because of you, here we are."
I think most people thought that Hillary would be this imperious person sitting up on a perch, and maybe she would deign to put her hand out.
Everybody was craning to see, would she arrive like the Lady Hillary?
And she just went to work. She did what she always does.
The Republicans thought, in a sense, they were sort of loaded for bear. They thought they'd just chop her off at the knees. And she just won them over. When
you looked and watched her work, you knew she was driven by the desire to do the duty for her constituents and for her country.
I think one reason Hillary succeeded in the Senate and in public service is that she has perhaps the best combination of mind and heart of anybody I've ever seen.
It seemed like she barely got her foot in the door, 9/11 hits.
We were on that ride, that helicopter ride and plane ride up to New York the day after it happened.
And the White House had just sent over to the Congress an emergency request for money. And there was not a penny for New York. And, Chuck and I were stunned.
We knew that we had to work quickly, effectively, as a team.
We had businesses that had been obliterated, lost everything. We had to help them get back on their feet. We had people who had been essentially run out of their apartments. And I said, well, we need at least as much as what's being asked for everything else. We need $20 billion.
And thank God we were successful.
For Hillary, it was not only about that day, but it is the follow-up.
The firefighters, the police, the first responders who all rushed to Ground Zero, who conducted the greatest rescue mission in the history of the world, saving 25,000 people's lives. As a result of their sacrifice and service, they began suffering from health problems.
People want to get on with their lives, and we want to too, but we also had to deal with the health effects of our own members, active and retired. And that's what Senator Clinton never lost sight of.
One of the firefighters just said to me, he said, Senator, please, don't let anybody forget what happened here, and don't let anyone forget us.
To this day, she worries about those firefighters and what they were exposed to.
We didn't endorse Senator Clinton. I just want to be upfront with that. We endorsed Rick Lazio. It didn't make a difference to her. Senator Clinton has been there for firefighters pre and post 9/11. This was a need, and she was going to address it.
I'll never forget when I first met Lauren Manning. She was one of the survivors. She'd been burned over 82% of her body, but she was a fighter.
She walked into my hospital room with wide open eyes and this gentle smile, and reached out her hand and took my bandaged one in her own and said, "It's a pleasure to meet you."
She's intelligent, she's resilient, and yet she needed help to kind of navigate through this morass of obstacles that had been thrown in her way.
She is not an individual that gives face time to a concept or empty words to an idea. She looks at it, she gets it, and she gets it done. And I think that is someone that can really rock.
She's a doer, a facilitator.
Oh, she's a gutsy woman. There's no question about it.
This is the first senator from New York to be a member of the Armed Services Committee. Very powerful committee.
If we haven't learned anything since 9/11, we certainly should have learned we've got to be prepared and vigilant at all times.
When I became a member of the Armed Services Committee, I started looking at the challenges that many of our military members and their families face.
As a reserve or a guard unit, you were not getting the same coverage, healthcare coverage, benefits to be received that the active duty personnel were receiving.
Certainly you're talking tens of thousands of guardsmen who do not have the benefit of full-time major medical protections, and they need that.
We were looking at this and saying to ourselves, this doesn't add up.
And in a matter of, months, Senator Clinton said, I'm going to do everything I can to fix it.
If it hadn't been for her efforts for the medical coverage, the TRICARE programs for our soldiers and our airmen and their families, we wouldn't have it today.
I believe Senator Clinton came in at a time when the economy was struggling, and she's doing her best to bring things back to where they ought to be and getting upstate recognized again and bringing the business back up here.
When I ran for the Senate, I pledged that I would do everything I could working with local communities to try to begin to build up our job base.
This lady's working hard for this region. She sees where we need help, and here she comes, and that's what I believe our senators are supposed to do, but she does it above and beyond.
As I traveled the state, I realized there were so many smart, creative people with great products, but they didn't have a very big market. And we came up with the idea of putting many of our small businesses on eBay so that they would have a global economy to sell into.
We're a small manufacturer of fishing rods.
Tim Damon proved the concept could work.
We were involved for about 6 months, and our overall sales rose about 32%. The following full year that we were involved, our sales jumped over 70%. We've pulled in wholesale accounts from all over the world, countries that I didn't even know existed. So it's worked fantastically for us.
I decided I was going to try to link up some of our first-rate products from our agricultural industry upstate with buyers downstate. So we put together a wine tour, and we had about 50 people who came with us.
It really amazed me how she got the top restaurateurs and chefs in New York to take an entire day to come to the Finger Lakes and experience what we had to offer and take that message back home with them.
One of the finer wines we tried was from Red Newt Cellars. It's a terrific, terrific product. We came back and we immediately put it on our By the Glass program.
What Hillary has done in her efforts has been actually to bring New York City to us.
I saw this little article about an effort to recreate Little Italy in Troy, New York.
One day I have this idea about starting a Little Italy project and revitalizing our neighborhood. And the next thing I know, I get a phone call from Senator Clinton saying she's very interested.
I was thrilled when I met Rocco and his family, because what he's trying to do is really keep alive the Italian heritage in Troy.
But this is really good. One thing leads to another, and this thing blossoms into a statewide organization that runs from Niagara Falls all the ways down to Long Island. People in all these Little Italy communities.
Boy, last year we faced a real threat. Some of our bases in New York were targeted for closing completely or downsizing.
You will find that it does a real disservice to our national and homeland security and the well-being.
And when I think about what that would have meant to the people of Rome or Niagara, it was devastating.
Senator Clinton got on the bandwagon with us and helped us save our jobs here.
Not only did she save the 340 jobs here at DFAS Rome and the additional 100 jobs at Rome Lab, through her intercession, 660 new jobs were created.
I mean, anytime you gain employment, 600 jobs to this area is huge, absolutely huge.
We are the largest base on the northern border that can respond in homeland security emergencies.
Senator Clinton's work in helping to keep the Niagara Falls Air Reserve Station open saved approximately 3,000 full and part-time jobs in Western New York.
My coming here is in part to send a very clear message of how important this base is.
The senator's contributions are yeoman, beyond yeoman. I mean, that base is open today because of the contributions the senator made.
When she believes in something, she fights all the way to the end to get it.
And Senator Clinton really takes strong positions, making sure that Social Security doesn't get privatized.
Take this battle over Social Security. At its root is an ideological rejection of the whole idea of government-sponsored insurance. The president wants private accounts because his crowd doesn't even seem to believe in the idea of a social safety net, even for our senior citizens, even for orphans, even for widows, even for people with disabilities. The George Bush Social Security privatization plan may be one small step for a Republican man, but it would be one giant leap backwards for the United States of America.
Of course, health care has always been one of the things that Senator Clinton has tried to work to reform.
We will never stop fighting for quality, affordable health care for every single American.
A lot of people know that I was involved in health care back in 93 and 94, and I still have the scars to show for it.
One of the things that's so daunting about taking on health care is that it takes imagination and innovation and persistence. And Hillary's done this better than anybody that you can think of.
Right. I haven't given up, and in the Senate, I have kept working on health care.
She has taken on tasks both big and small.
Senator Clinton came here in the first ever hearings on breast cancer and the environment were held here in Long Island. That had never happened before. Never.
Expanding health care to small businesses.
Recruitment and retention of nurses.
Making sure that everybody can get the flu vaccine that they need.
Mrs. Clinton has supported and continues to support our teaching hospitals, because our teaching hospitals are truly under siege.
If you look at Hillary Clinton's record, what you see is accomplishments that will make a difference in the lives of people.
We owe a primary duty to our children. That's always been the heart of what motivated me in politics, what I care most about.
I like to think of Hillary as a lioness protecting children.
Is what we're doing good for our children? That ought to be the number one overriding question that we ask every time we vote on anything.
And she is truly protecting America's children.
Against domestic violence that children are exposed to.
She's attacked internet predators. She's fought for the Amber Alert system.
Child care, health care, support to families.
She's helped create a national registry of sex offenders.
Child Health Plus programs in New York State.
I was very happy to succeed in obtaining more than $2.5 billion for New York children and families.
I think that Senator Clinton gets what children need.
You know, once in a while, we can really make a difference and help one child or one family.
My daughter Nicole was diagnosed with ALL, which is acute lymphoblastic leukemia, in December of 2000. We thought it meant that she needed a bone marrow transplant.
Joel was diagnosed in the summer of 2004 with adrenal leukodystrophy.
I just see so many parents, because of the work I've done in children's hospitals over the years, who are holding it together for themselves and their children. And, you know, I want to help them as much as I can.
During the course of all this, our insurance company would pay for the transplant, but they wouldn't cover the donor means, which meant they wouldn't cover us finding a donor.
Joel would not have survived had he not had the bone marrow transplant. It was going to cost upwards of $300,000 to $400,000. Being nurses, we don't have that kind of money. It's like, where do you turn to? Where do you go?
There is nothing more heartbreaking for a parent than seeing your child sick.
When she became aware, she had the same reaction we did, which was it's kind of backwards, and she was able to fight and change the policy to help us gain coverage.
Nicole is doing well. Her cancer is in remission, and she may not even need that bone marrow transplant.
Should she need the transplant, our insurance coverage now, they would actually cover the means to get there, which is phenomenal.
Because of her, the insurance company changed its policy, and now any child who may need a bone marrow transplant will be eligible for having one.
I think we got in touch with the one person that really made a difference. The next day, we got a call saying that the hospital would absorb the cost of the bone marrow transplant.
It takes a village, she always said, right, to raise children. And I keep saying it takes a village to cure a child of cancer, because after our experience, it definitely does.
I truly believe if it wasn't for her, Joel wouldn't be with us today. How do you thank someone for saving your child's life?
That's just who she is. If she says, I'll help you, she just does it. And if no matter what frustrations there are, she's just there day in and day out all the time until the job is done.
I think we're really lucky to have her as a senator.
I think she's a very special person, one of a kind.
I did not vote for Senator Clinton before, but I am now one of her biggest supporters.
If there's a cause that the working people of New York need somebody to fight for them, Hillary Clinton's going to be there.
She has just proven to be incredibly engaged, incredibly effective.
I'm glad she's standing up to President Bush, because if she doesn't stand up, a lot of people are going to fall down. She is a person I would trust.
She's for the people, for ordinary people. And she fights for ordinary people.
I didn't vote for her. I think I will this next election.
Senator Clinton definitely works her tail off for us.
She's my girl. She's my girl. I love her.
New Yorkers took a chance on me in 2000, and I have worked hard every single day to deserve that chance.
Thank you all. Thank you. Great to see you all. Thanks so much for coming.